Hey YouTubers, this video is going to be a how-to on how to install an oil sight glass tube on an XR650R. This is a 2006, but this procedure really shouldn't change from 2000 to 2007 as the bike was pretty much identical every year. I've decided to source the parts out myself as opposed to buying the Baja Designs kit, which will run you about 80 bucks. You can save about 20 bucks on the install if you have the tools already, which I do. So I've sourced out Parker fittings on eBay. You want to use stainless steel fittings because they resist corrosion when they're installed in aluminum better than any other metal except for aluminum itself. But you don't want to use aluminum because they're not strong enough. I wouldn't want to have aluminum fittings in my frame. So these are 1/8 NPT by 1/4 compression style fittings. They're 90 degree, of course, stainless steel. And like I said, Parker, you can get them off eBay. They're about $15 or $20 a piece. So this is the majority of the cost of this kit. Here's your part number info. You're going to need 2 of those. Now you're also going to need some PTFE or Teflon tubing. You want to use Teflon because it's pretty much the most resistant tubing you can get as far as being resistant to oil and temperatures for extended periods of time. If you cheap out in this department, get something else, you'll find something that will work, but it probably won't last. The oil's going to break it down and eventually you might have a failure. That's the last thing you want in your lubrication system on your bike. So you need some PTFE tubing. That's 1/4 inch outside diameter, of course. You're going to need a tap and die set and a 1/8 by 27 NPT or National Pipe Thread tap. You're going to need a drill bit to go along with that tap, and my chart says 1/8 27 NPT takes an 1132 drill bit. So I've got an 1132 drill bit here. Got a drill, of course. And the kit comes with, a handle for the tapping, and also this makes it pretty handy for tapping if you don't have a lot of room to swing that big handle around. So that's probably what you're going to need as far as tools. Baja Designs has an installation instructions on their website in PDF form. There's a link below for that. And these instructions are pretty much crucial because they come with scaled templates on where exactly to drill your holes. This is the most important part. So I've gone ahead and removed the gas tank on the bike to get it up and out of the way. The upper hole is fairly easy to do. It's out in the open. Lots of room to work. The lower hole, however, is going to be down in front of the rad, approximately in this area right here. You're going to have to remove this oil tube to be able to have enough room to do that drilling and tapping. You could leave the rad in. I anticipate that you may have enough room if you unbolt the rad and just swing it back. First thing I'm going to try is just unbolting it and seeing how much I can move the rad back to see if there's enough room to thread that fitting in. You don't necessarily need a lot of room to do the tapping and the drilling, but you do need that room to swing that 90 degree fitting in there when you're threading it in. So I'm going to start by just unbolting it and see where that goes. Alright, so I've removed the bolt that holds on the oil line onto the frame, and now I'm going to want to remove that. This line is sealed with an O-ring, and what you're going to want to do to remove it without damaging it is just get something that you can pry the line out with. Even just a slotted screwdriver will work. I usually have to improvise in my garage because all my tools are at work. I am a mechanic, but I'm pretty poorly equipped at home. So I'm just going to use my Leatherman pliers. I'm going to slide them in behind the line like this and just use them for leverage. You're going to pry outwards while pulling out, and it should come out pretty easily. This bike's 4 years old. This line's never been off, and I didn't have any trouble getting this line off at all. So you're just going to pull this out like so. And there's my O-ring right there. Now before reinstallation, you're going to want to make sure that you look at this O-ring and there's no nicks or cuts on it. It's okay to reuse it. O-rings typically can be reused and they will seal again, provided that they haven't been flattened or they don't have any nicks or cuts or any kind of damage to them. If they still have their nice round shape and there's no damage, you can go ahead and reuse that. So I've gone ahead and gotten that line out of the way, as you can see, just by letting the line kind of drop down forward. I've got tons of room to put that fitting in. I'm not going to be able to use a traditional tap handle. I'm going to have to go ahead and use that adapter that I have here, this guy, which allows you to install threads with limited space. If you've never used a tap and die set before, if you've never created threads or done any kind of thread repair, I would highly recommend practicing on something else first. Get yourself a plate of steel, you know, do a couple holes. Just make sure you get it right, because you know, you don't want to mess this up. This is your frame, and once you mess it up, well, it's a little more difficult to deal with after. It's better to get it right the first time. Alright, so I've gone ahead and cut out the templates that Baja Designs has in their instruction guide on their website, and I've marked my holes. First one you're going to put over the oil tube boss, and then you're going to mark it like so. The second one you're going to position over the upper rad mount boss, which is right here. You're going to line it up with the front of the frame, basically so the template's parallel with the frame, and then you're going to go ahead and mark your hole, just like so. It's not an exact science, but you got to kind of trust in Baja Designs templates. One recommendation, consideration, is that you make sure your frame is empty. This bike has been winterized. It hasn't run since I put it away in the fall, so I know that all the oil is drained back into the crankcase. So you don't have to worry about it. If you've had your bike running recently, it's possible there's going to be some oil in the frame, and you may want to drain the oil out using the drain bolt just down here on the lower portion of the frame. So next step is to actually drill the holes. I'm going to start off by drilling a pilot hole using a smaller drill bit, and then I'll step up to the full-size 1132 drill bit that's required. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and drill 2 pilot holes. My recommendation is that you plug this hole. I'm not going to do that because I don't have anything to plug it with. But just make sure before you reinstall this line that you have this 100% clean in case some shavings get in there. The good thing about the XR is that it has an oil filter screen, a down tube screen inside the frame. So any shavings that may get into the frame rail here from drilling is going to end up in that screen. So basically what I'm going to do is go ahead and drill and tap, install my fittings. I'm going to run the bike up to temperature and then do an oil change. And I'm going to take this screen out, make sure it's clean. So any shavings that get in there, I'm going to clean them out. They won't make it into the crankcase. So I'm going to go ahead and drill my pilot hole here. I would recommend using a center punch. Do as I say, not as I do. Alright, there's my pilot hole for my upper fitting. I'm going to go ahead and drill the bottom one. It's aluminum, drills fairly easily. So there's my 2 pilot holes. Now I'm going to drill to the full 1132 size, and these pilot holes are going to allow me to be exactly where I want to be with the main drilled hole. Alright, so we have our 1132 drill bit. We're going to go ahead and drill these two holes to their full diameter. Baja Designs recommends putting grease inside of the flutes to catch any of the shavings. That's really only going to be effective when you get to the last part of the hole where you may get a few shavings that fall through. In my opinion, you're going to get some shavings in there no matter what, even if you put grease. The flutes are designed to take the cuttings away from the cutting surface and up the drill bit. So if you put grease in there, all the shavings are going to kind of get crammed at the end of your drill bit, and it's possible you'll get more shavings in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just drill it without any grease on the drill bit. So as you can see, we're almost all the way through, and that last little bit, you're going to get shavings in there, whether you like it or not. Alright, so we've drilled all the way through. That looks a little scary considering it's my frame rail. We're going to go ahead and drill the bottom hole, same thing. So there you go, 1132, we've got two holes. They're in good shape for installing the threads for that NPT fitting. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tap the hole. Again, I can't emphasize enough, if you've never tapped anything, don't make this your first project. Go practice on something else. Alright, so the Baja Designs instructions basically state that what you want to do is you want to tap this hole until you can thread the fitting in hand tight to the position that you want it to be in. Now, basically the end result is that the fitting is going to be positioned just like that. Okay, so you want to thread it deep enough that when you hand tighten it, that's where it's going to be, so that you can give it one more turn with a wrench and it'll be positioned exactly where you want. Now, for those of you that don't know, NPT, or National Pipe Thread, is a tapered thread. It's not a straight thread like most metric and standard bolts. So as you tighten the fitting up, it's actually going to get tighter and tighter. And it's designed to do that because it self-seals on the threads itself. However, I still would recommend using some kind of a pipe sealant on this. NPT threads aren't necessarily 100% effective at sealing. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to start tapping this hole. I drilled the hole perpendicular to the frame because you'll actually see that where the hole is, the frame's actually starting to taper off, but I've drilled the hole perpendicular, so that's where I'm going to start. And if you've never tapped before, you kind of want to start and make sure you actually get the tap to start biting on the metal. Okay, and when you do that, what you want to do is you want to back it off, and that's called cutting the chip. The material that the tap is actually cutting has to be broken off. You can't just keep threading a tap in, because you're going to actually run into problems. You may actually break it. So what you want to do, the general rule is you want to thread it half a turn, and then you want to back it off a quarter or half a turn. You're going to actually feel when the chip is broken. So you're going to thread it in, and then you're going to back it out just enough to break off that aluminum that you're cutting. Okay?